the 30 days in section 2.
Yeah,
Um, I'm 100% going to do that before school starts.
good.
That's probably going to be its own blog write up as what I
Awesome.
experienced going through that. So
Oh yeah,
I'm prepping myself because like I looked at it the first day and I was just like, oh, once I started, I can't stop.
right.
So, um,
Precisely the point of that.
that's and is it so 30 days? Is 30 days like 30 days in a row? Would you find the most benefit like it's Saturday and Sunday too? You're hitting them 7 days until it's done. Like that.
Yeah, I would say. Well, I mean, take days off as needed, of course,
Well,
but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
30 days in a row. I mean, especially the first time you do it, and to really get each variation well set, so that you're not really having to think about, oh shoot, this is the septuplet one. Oh shoot, this is.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
you kind of have them, and so, but yeah, the entire the idea of that is we always encourage variation in the way people practice their scales, and as well we should, but a lot of times it's not really followed through with, and sometimes the student will get to a difficult variation and just say, oh geez, I don't want to do that, and they go back to the way they were doing it. And so if there's a calendar on it, if
Yeah.
there's no, this is day what, if there's a cycle to it, then that's not, by putting a time frame on it and making it measurable, it's more likely to be followed through with. And that's why they're spelled out like that, is that yep, even if if you're taking, if you want to take a day off from the routine on like Sunday or Saturday or whatnot, and then just do it on the weekdays, okay, fine, great. So 6 sets of 5-day weeks,
Yeah,
great,
yeah. Yeah.
dynamite. And what that becomes is that you realize, oh, by doing that, now that scale routine that actually replaces my need to work on, have double tongue be a separate section of the day,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
vibrato be a separate section of it, because that's in
It's
one of the
incorporated in.
variations.
That's what I've
Yeah,
tried to find so much when I'm actually doing my like a real like hour long warm up is like when am I doubling up? Like when can I suddenly have a tuning CD in and
yeah,
make sure that I'm doing like something aurally productive along
yeah.
with like working on facility. So that's yeah,
And
that's
that's
awesome.
it. It's all about efficiency. It's about you're getting through all the scales you need to know, and then you're also getting through nearly every basic fundamental,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
at nearly every dynamic. And like I said, by putting a calendar on it, you make it more likely that people will follow through, because they can journal and just say, "Yep,
Yeah.
today I got to here with it."
Is
And
that
the
something?
first,
Oh
go ahead.
no, well, is that something that you push or not push, but suggest or expect out of like your students in your studio is journaling their practice or
Yeah, and especially, absolutely, and taking notes of everything. And what I found is that a lot of times with it, maybe it's a product of kind of our generation more so than most, or my generation going forward, because I'm an old millennial. So now, and we're on like Gen Z or whatever the heck we're on now.
I feel like there's gonna be a new one next. I
Yeah,
can't
we're going to have to go
now
right back to the
because now I'm
start.
starting to feel old. So yeah, that's
Gen A1, neck or whatever.
start. Is that the plan? Is it gonna go back to
I have no
ABC?
idea. Oh, they're going to have to start making up letters, but
They didn't think this through when they finished or in the 70s. That
well,
was
yeah, the other nickname is the iGen, so maybe they're going to call this like the Gen Prime for Amazon Prime or whatever. I don't know. Once Bezos owns us all, but when I think, thinking about it, is that when I ask them about their playing, they're actually really great about critiquing themselves and knowing exactly what's not going well. But then you ask them, all right, but what's good? What are you good at? What was good
yeah.
that day? And they can't think of a single thing. And so they present this really negative picture of themselves a lot of times if they don't journal specifically the progress that they made,
Yeah.
and what went well. And by progress, if it's 2 clicks on the metronome, that's progress,
Two clips
because you
that's
do
a big
that.
deal. That's
Well, because if you do that 365 days a year, or
yeah.
you make that, that's some pretty darn good progress, And so I always frame it with them, because our semester is 14 weeks. I just think about, we talk about that each lesson, about the progress their technique made for that week, and what went. So think about it though. Even if you only feel like that made a difference for this week, multiply that sort of effort by 14 weeks, that's some serious progress. And so knowing that and being able to chart that is important, because I think maybe most musicians are, and I'm guilty of this myself, is that while practicing, it's easy to get frustrated. It's easy only to hear your faults, and it's sometimes, less so with scales, but with like long tones and vibrato and intonation. Sometimes it's actually harder to just hear your incremental progress.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, did I get slightly better at playing piano, low D and below today, or whatever, or but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you did, and listen to it, and if you need to, record yourself and do
Yeah.
that, and so like I said, that's why essentially they're structured the way they are, is that they get progressively more demanding, but also the variations that you see there are designed to just sort of absolutely keep you honest with where you are in that cycle. And so that various instruments have rotations that they do with scales, and I've seen people pop it up on YouTube that they're doing a rotation. I thought we don't know, I haven't seen this for saxophone yet published. Maybe somebody made a YouTube, and if they did, great. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant of that. But having a cycle like that, good. That's one way of doing it. And then the pattern course that follows it, different to Chops 1, which is more a complete overhaul of everything. You can
Yeah.
go right through that pattern course. Great. And then you can go to the chromatic course. And now that you've done those chromatics, you have some ideas as to how to break up a chromatic scale meaningfully. But the reason why I start Chops 2 with the just the way of taking full range scales and repeating them meaningfully.
And moving that,
just
moving the
take,
range and the starting notes. Yeah.
right. Because I want to take where your scales are right now, and let's find the most meaningful way of varying it, even though it's the same scale. That's the other foundational concept behind that book, is that we have this bizarre notion that there's one form of a scale.
You only start your B flat scale on low B flat.
On low B flat, go up and then come back down. When you say scale to some, that's the shape that they think of.
Yeah.
And genuinely, that might be the first way you see it, but there's no reason for that to have some sort of primacy.
F sharp major goes up and down and up, but no other scale really does.
That's right.
And that doesn't work with any other instrument. Like that's
No.
Yeah.
Again, it could be a product of the fact that we've lived with the idea that books said that the saxophone is only keyed up to high F sharp.
Yeah.
Well, what does that even mean? I mean, what's the flute keyed up to? I mean, come on.
Is it keyed up to high F sharp if there's no F sharp key?
I've heard Emmanuel Pahud pop out some notes that I think the flute's not keyed up to. I think he figured that. So, but anyway, and so I think that's a product of having the idea of, take all your scales to our top note.
Yeah.
The top note for me in 8th grade is very different than me now. The top note for a 5th grader is not the same as Lenny Pickett, and so those are very different sort of things. We don't have a top note is the point, and so that the way that we've just sort of encountered our scales relentlessly is that you start on the bottom, you go up to around high F or F sharp, and then go back down, and that's full range scale. Good. That's one form of that range. That's one way of doing that. And most people will practice it either all slurred or all articulated. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to put the metronome on the and of the beat, not on the beat. And then all of a sudden their hands don't know what the hell the saxophone is. And that was a product of, actually, a lot of folks encounter that when they're playing jazz and learning to feel the backside of the beat a bit more.
Often,
I actually used that when I used that a lot because when we're doing more traditional music with the quartet, because excuse me, I arrange a lot of bluegrass and Irish and all that sort of stuff. The backbeat it's the same sort of thing.
Then
that's
after
where the weight
after
is.
5 minutes, you're like, wait, where am I
Right.
now? Because if you don't do it regularly, it's
your fingers won't know where that is. If the rhythm section, or even if the bass is giving you 2 and 4, and you haven't practiced your chops feeling 2 and 4. They're going to go away.
What's the
point?
point?
Or you're
What's
going to
the point
always
of
be
doing it?
trying to over anticipate, and that's what you always hear is that people try and get back on the beat. Just that you're using the same rhythm, you're just putting the metronome in a different spot. That can inform something new about your technique. And So that's why that section starts that way with here's how to meaningfully repeat your scales. Please stop doing them just one way. And
Yeah.
then I'm going to add
Yeah.
some variations to that are going to that rhythmically and then articulation good. Now we've taken the way your scales were and made them a little bit more engaging. Now here's the 30-day cycle. Now here's a full range scale pattern chord and then chromatic, and that's why that's laid out that way. Is that if I just launched right in with my most complicated pattern, yeah, people like you bastard. Why I'm not doing this.
See you
Who do you
later.
think he
Thanks
is?
anyway.
Yeah, right.